ever stopped and realized that over time, you and your best friend or your partner have kind of started to sound the same? Or all of a sudden you're both obsessed with the same weird hobby? Well, it turns out there are these invisible forces that are constantly shaping our closest relationships, pulling us together in ways we don't even notice. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the most powerful of these forces. So, let me ask you this directly. Think about the most important people in your life. What's the secret glue holding it all together? Is it just shared memories, similar interests? Well, psychologists have a different idea, and it's something that's happening almost completely subconsciously. And it's a thing called attitude alignment. Now, that sounds a bit academic, but all it really means is that we have this subconscious tendency to tweak our own opinions and beliefs to get more in sync with the people we love. And this isn't about being fake or just agreeing to agree. It's a real, genuine shift that happens totally under the radar. But why? Why do we do this? What's this incredibly strong, unconscious pull that makes us want to agree with the people in our inner circle? Well, it all boils down to a really basic human need for psychological comfort. Our brains are just, well, they're wired for harmony. I mean, think about it. When you find out you and a close friend are on completely opposite sides of an issue, it just feels weird, right? It's kind of jarring. Psychologists call that feeling an imbalance, and it creates this low-level mental tension. Our brains hate that tension, so we're instinctively motivated to fix it. And, one of the simplest ways to do that is for one person's attitude to just shift a little. And listen, this isn't just some fluffy theory. Researchers named Jody Davis and Carol Rusbolt actually dug into this with a really fascinating study. They wanted to figure out exactly when and how this alignment thing actually happens. They wanted to know the recipe, the specific ingredients that make us more likely to change our minds for someone we care about. And what they found was this brilliant idea they call the principle of least effort. It's pretty simple, really. We are most likely to shift our own attitude when two things are true. First, the issue isn't something we care that much about. It's not a core part of who we are. And second, it's something that is incredibly important to our partner. It's just the path of least resistance to get back to that feeling of harmony. And check this out. The data they collected totally confirms this. The amount of attitude alignment, how much people actually change their minds, was way, way higher under these exact conditions. We just instinctively bend on the small stuff to support the person we love on the big stuff. It makes perfect sense. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The strength of the relationship itself makes a huge difference. The study also found that couples who said they were happier and more satisfied in their relationships showed way more attitude alignment. So it seems like these stronger, healthier relationships actually have a more powerful, more flexible alignment process built right in. So attitude alignment is the glue. It keeps things together. But what happens when that glue just isn't strong enough anymore? What happens when you disagree about something that is a core part of who both of you are? A belief where neither one of you can bend without feeling like you're breaking a piece of yourself. Well, that is often the exact moment where a relationship, especially a really close friendship, starts to crack. And that's the painful question, isn't it? When that gap in your values just becomes too wide to cross, alignment is impossible. That psychological discomfort we talked about, it's no longer temporary. It becomes a permanent rift. And this leads to a kind of grief that's really unique and, frankly, often misunderstood. And that right there is the heart of the problem. When a best friend suddenly just isn't in your life anymore, the grief can be absolutely crushing. But as this quote from Healthline points out, it's what they call a disenfranchised grief. There are no funerals, no days off work. Society just kind of expects you to get over it, which can make the pain feel incredibly isolating. The impact of this is just staggering. A 2019 study found that the grief from losing a close friend can negatively affect a person's physical and mental health for up to 4 years. Let that sink in. 4 years. This isn't some minor bump in the road. It's a major life event with really serious long-term consequences. Okay, so understanding the science is one thing, but how do you actually cope with the very real, very raw pain when that alignment fails and a friendship ends? Let's talk about a path forward and look at some practical steps from experts on how to navigate this incredibly difficult journey. So the road to healing is never a straight line, but experts point to 4 really crucial guideposts. It all starts with just acknowledging what you're feeling, giving yourself the gift of time, taking care of your basic well-being, and finally, learning how to lean on others for support. Let's break down what each of those really looks like. All right, first step, and this one might be the hardest, is just letting yourself feel everything. The loss of a friendship can bring up this messy, complicated cocktail of sadness, anger, confusion, maybe even regret. The temptation is to just shove it all down, but healing can't even begin until you let those feelings come to the surface. A journal can be a really amazing tool here. It's a totally safe, private space to be brutally honest with yourself. When you're grieving, just basic self-care can feel like climbing a mountain, but it's the thing that's going to anchor you. Simple things, right? Getting enough sleep, eating a decent meal, just stepping outside for 5 minutes of fresh air. None of this is going to magically erase the pain, but it builds a foundation of strength so that you can carry it. It creates stability when everything else feels completely out of control. It's so tempting to just pull away from everyone when you're hurting, but total isolation usually just makes the grief feel heavier. You don't have to talk about the loss if you don't feel like it, but just being around people who care about you can make you feel so much less alone. Let your support system know what you need, even if what you need is just someone to sit on the couch and watch a movie with you in silence. Sometimes, though, the grief is just too big to handle on your own or even with the help of friends. So, how do you know? How do you know when it might be time to get some professional support? Well, Healthline offers some really gentle, clear signals from your own mind and body. If this loss is starting to really disrupt your daily life, your ability to work or eat or sleep, or if you find you're just stuck in a loop of painful thoughts and things just aren't getting better over time, a therapist can give you the tools and the space you need to actually start healing. So we end here. Attitude alignment is this incredible subconscious dance that keeps our relationships resilient and strong. But when the music stops, that silence can be absolutely deafening. Knowing how these invisible forces work gives us a whole new way of looking at our connections. It helps us appreciate that delicate, fragile balance that holds us all together. And maybe, just maybe, it gives us a little more compassion for ourselves and for others when it all falls apart.